episode 1 of the David Lindsey podcast. We're here today with Meghan McLean, the Chief Operating Officer for Special Olympics Florida. Mm-hmm. Welcome, Meghan, and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So as we get started with the initial podcast, can you give us a little history of Special Olympics and then also talk about how Special Olympics Florida was brought in?
Yeah, definitely. So Special Olympics is a global organization now present in over 170 countries, serving millions of athletes across the world. But obviously it didn't start that way. The start of it goes back to 1968. And it was founded by Eunice Kennedy Shriver. So she was in the Kennedy family. Her brother was JFK. And obviously a really influential and powerful family at that time especially. And I think people know a lot about their family, but may not know that they had a sister, Rosemary, who had intellectual disabilities.
Okay.
And this was at a time when people with intellectual disabilities were almost always sent to institutions to live. Their families were told this is the right thing to do. You don't have the ability to really care for this person the way they need to be, so they were sent to institutions. But that was not something that Eunice was going to accept. And one of the things she noticed is that her sister was never more confident and joyful than when she was active with the family. So she realized there was something there. So from that, she started what came to be known as Camp Shriver. And she actually invited people with intellectual disabilities to her home to participate in a summer camp in her backyard. Okay. So you imagine someone in a family that's that powerful at a time when then people with intellectual disabilities were often treated as outcasts. You know, she's inviting them to her home.
So they probably felt very comfortable going.
Yeah, it was just inclusion at that time before that was even a thing.
Okay.
And that was really the start of it. So that was Camp Shriver, and then it grew from there with her influence. And in 1968, they had the first international games at Soldier Field in Chicago. So it was athletes from the United States and from Canada. Okay. They built a swimming pool inside Soldier Field, and she had the first international games. And from that, the Special Olympics mission was born. And again, that was 1968.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
you know how many people showed up for that?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the exact number for that, but I probably larger than if it was done by anybody other than a Kennedy.
Yeah,
but still small compared to what the World Games look like today. Yeah.
And from there, is that then how states started getting involved? And I know, I think it was 1972.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Special Olympics Florida came to be.
Right. So shortly after that, 1972, Special Olympics Florida incorporated.
Okay.
And became a state organization. So there's the global organization that's based out of D.C. that is Special Olympics International. That's broken down into regions. We fall into Special Olympics North America. And then each state has its own 501c3. That's a separate organization under the Special Olympics umbrella.
Okay.
So Special Olympics Florida was only a few years behind the birth of Special Olympics as a whole.
What was, after the national group came to be, and what was the first state? Where did Florida rank in starting?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not exactly sure how the order of that went.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it is for sure. But I think Florida was pretty early in there.
Well, yeah, 4 years after the fact is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Special Olympics touches so many people, and we just came through the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and there's a really interesting story of a Special Olympian I think he's from Port St. Lucie, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about that athlete and what he does in the partnership with Special Olympics and the NFL and what that looked like in New Orleans last week. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the athlete is his name's Malcolm Harris Gowdy. He's from St. Lucie County, and he's a Publix associate. So he's a Special Olympics athlete. He works at Publix, but his passion is sports broadcasting. And if you ever talk to him, he knows every stat about every game that's been played. But really his dream and his passion is to be a sports broadcaster, and he's really, really talented. So through that, this is, I think, the second or third year in a row that he was invited to the Super Bowl by Fansided to be a reporter. So he was there with one of our staff members. There's videos of him, 5 feet away from Jalen Hurts, asking him what it means to be an athlete, asking Andy Reid questions before the game. So incredible experience for him to be there. He was on the field during the Super Bowl.
So he's got full credentials.
Yes, media credentials at the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. And how long has he been a part of that with the NFL
I
and the
think it's
Super
the
Bowl?
second or third year. I could be wrong about that, but
And
he's
is this
gone
something
multiple
that there's a
years.
deal with the NFL and he'll be, I'm not sure where the Super Bowl is next year, but he'll be there again? Or
Yeah,
is
we
it,
hope so. Yeah, it's through Fansided. So Fansided is a group that does some coverage of the Super Bowl. This year there was another athlete there as well.
okay.
So hopefully they're looking to expand it. But incredible experience for him. He's really good at it, and it's just awesome to see him right there with all the other reporters
And I'm
asking
sure
him
the
questions.
players love seeing
Yeah.
a Special Olympian there
Hmm.
and listening to the questions that he has for them, and
Hmm.
because they get some crazy
Yeah.
questions from some crazy reporters, I'm
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
and just to see the passion behind the questions
Hmm.
from this kid has got to be amazing for
Yeah.
them to be able to answer. So
Yeah.
that's really
Definitely.
cool. But besides that, there's so many inspirational stories, right,
Hmm.
within Special Olympics and Special Olympians from Florida. I mean, one of the first events that I did with you was a surfing competition,
Hmm.
or attended,
Hmm.
was a surfing competition out on the coast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you introduced me to an athlete that ended up running Ironmans. Is that right?
Hmm.
Or can
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about that and his experience and what he's meant to
Yeah.
Special Olympics of Florida?
Yeah, so triathlon's been a really, really popular sport that's grown quickly for us. We offer 27 different sports with the idea that we want to have something for everybody. So from triathlon to bowling to basketball to track and field, but triathlon's one of our newest additions. And it really came from I met at a fundraiser. I met a person who wanted to get involved, and I said, "You should be a coach." And she said, "I want to do more than that." And I said, "You could be a unified partner." And she said, "I kind of want to do more than that." And I said, and her name's Wynn McFarland. She's been fantastic for us. I said, "Well, what do you like?" And she said, I'm a triathlete. I like to participate in triathlons." So together we sort of came up with the idea of starting a pilot program for triathlon in Florida. So with a certified coach and Wynn and myself, we built this pilot program. And on the first day, 4 athletes showed up. Now there's many, many, many more athletes that are participating in triathlon. But on that first day, it was 4 athletes, all incredible athletes. But one of them was Chris Nikich, who had no experience in triathlon when he came to that first practice. Was not, I'm not sure that he could ride a bike at that point.
Hmm.
That was in 2018, the summer of 2018. Fast forward a year and a half later, and he became the first person with Down syndrome to complete a full Ironman. So just through, taking advantage of an
Unreal.
opportunity that was given to him. And now he's obviously inspired other athletes to participate in triathlons. He's eased a lot of the apprehension that parents might have about such a challenging sport and swimming in the open water. But he now has his own public speaking business, and he travels all over the country and generates income through keynote speeches. And obviously with income comes more independence,
Yeah.
and truly just an inspiring. He got an ESPY. Tim Tebow presented him with an ESPY at the ESPY Awards.
Wow.
Yeah, the list goes on and on. So he's just another incredible athlete that's just by being himself, he's shown the world what our athletes can do.
Well, I mean, that's inspiring just to hear and to
Hmm.
being around that on a daily basis. I'm sure that they just inspire you as a
Yeah.
human, right? But, I want to hear more about your story and how you got involved with
Hmm.
Special Olympics and kind of your career path
Yeah, sure.
and kind of what inspires you with being around such a great organization and being around such great kids.
Yeah, so I have played sports my whole life. I come from a big family. I have 4 siblings, and we all played sports growing up. I mean, it was like what we did together. And I went to college at the University of Delaware. I played basketball there, and my original major was sport management. And I really thought I wanted to go to law school and maybe become an agent. Got to my class and I realized every other freshman in the sport management class had the same idea. They were all going to
Mm.
be sports agents, and I think things got a little more realistic at that time. But I wanted to keep sport a part of what my plan was in the long term. So I had my sport management major, and then one of my college teammates actually asked me. She's my best friend now. At that time, just said, "Hey, my sister is at an adult day training center, which is a place where adults with intellectual disabilities can go during the day to have care and socialize." She said, "Will you come volunteer with me?" So I went to her sister's. This is in Delaware. It's called the Mary Campbell Center. And I went to the Mary Campbell Center with her and volunteered. And it was truly at age 18, 19, my first real interaction with people with intellectual disabilities. And it immediately became a passion of mine. Just interacting with this population, helping, learning from them. So literally the next week, I went to my academic advisor and I added special education as a major. So I kept the sport management track going as well, kind of giving myself 2 options. for a while thought I was going to be a special education teacher, but didn't love my student teaching practicums. It didn't really feel like the right way for me to work with this population. So I ended up working for WNBA for a little bit in Chicago.
Okay.
And then through that was introduced to the Special Olympics because a lot of the players and my college teammate and friend played for the Chicago Sky at the time.
Okay.
She did a lot of work with the Special Olympics because of her passion
Which,
with
by the way, was
sister.
probably the best player in the NBA.
Yes, yeah, she was WNBA MVP.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they won the championship, Olympic gold medal.
Wow.
Yeah, so she, through that, I kind of saw Special Olympics for the first time as a possible career. And it was sort of this perfect mix of my two passions of working with this population and sports. So I applied for an entry-level job in Florida because that was one of the places that had an opening at the time. And I interviewed over Zoom. Yeah, Special Olympics Florida. I interviewed over Zoom, and I got the job, and I moved here. I had been to Florida once before to play basketball, and I didn't know anyone, but that was 11 years ago now. Yeah, and the passion stayed alive.
You kind of rocketed up the leader. I mean, you went from that entry-level position to now the chief operating officer.
Yeah. I've been really
amazing.
lucky. Yeah, I've been lucky, and I think it just, there's a lot of opportunity that's been given by the leadership at Special Olympics Florida. And I think if you are passionate about what you're doing, I think the opportunities come often. And for me, there was sort of a doubling down of the passion pretty recently, actually. And so I was with Special Olympics Florida, and then we won the bid to host the national games. So I was still under the Special Olympics Florida umbrella, but I went to work on the committee that put on those games. Mm-hmm. And through that, really was introduced to a lot of different organizations. We interacted with a lot of sports organizations and national governing bodies, and was sort of maybe at a turning point of thinking, do I want to take my career in a different direction? And was for the first time considering maybe not staying with Special Olympics permanently, maybe taking a break and coming back. And then my sister had a baby in 2021, and he was born early, so he was in the NICU. And a month after he was born, he was diagnosed with some pretty severe intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities, a very rare genetic deletion of one of his chromosomes. And, they were told very likely that he would ever walk. He probably wouldn't talk, very cognitively delayed. And my sister called me. I was one of the first people she called. And what she said to me is, I think you're the only person who can tell me what my life is going to look like.
Oh, my.
So that was it for me.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
think I'll be. So that was like I said, a doubling down of my passion. And I love the work that I do. And I don't like to say that my passion is helping this population, because it's not helping. I have the opportunity and the blessing to be able to interact with some incredible people who have overcome things that are unimaginable and are just wanting to live fulfilling lives. And the work that we do, the idea is just to give them that opportunity to do that.
Well, the kids that I've been around, they're always happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, whether it's a surfing competition or bowling competition, and can you talk a little bit about the age range of kids, where they can start? And I mean, I don't think there's a limit on the age of being a kid to being an adult, of what they can participate in, right?
Yeah, no, that's so true. And one of the things that makes Special Olympics unique from any other sports organization is that we really are committed to having something for everybody, every age, every ability level, which is why we have so many different sports, because no matter the athletic ability, there's a sport that a person could participate in. But age is part of that also. So it starts as early as age 2. So we have our Young Athletes program that starts at age 2. Age 2 is the age because often that's the point of diagnosis. So unless there's a clear genetic condition, age 2 is when a developmental delay or an intellectual disability is often.
And how does that happen? So they're diagnosed with that, and then the parents reach out to Special Olympics to get them involved. That's the process, kind of.
What typically happens is, when that diagnosis comes, a lot of physicians, we hope, are presenting us as a resource to the family, but we do a lot of awareness also. We want people to be aware that we're here. So we become a place for them. It's as much for the athlete to benefit as a resource for families, to be around other families who are going through what they're going through at what can be a really uncertain and scary time.
Yeah.
So it starts at age 2, and there's no upper age limit. So we have athletes who are 2, and we have athletes who are in their 90s who are still actively competing, which is really cool when you get to see a family who's just been faced with this diagnosis, who comes to one of our events and sees their 2 or 3-year-old and then in the same space is an 80-year-old, and they realize that we can be a place for their child for as long as they want to be involved. So they can sort of see a future and a hope that may not have been there before their
Well, I saw that at the bowling competition. I mean, there were older athletes that were bowling 200. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't bowl 200.
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And to see them out there, and they do. You're right. The support is there from their family, and they're there as happy as can be. And they're there. It's a 2-day competition. They're coming from all over the state,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think it's really cool just to see that support and to see the smiles on their faces as they're able to compete on a level that where they can compete.
Right. Right.
So starting at 2 and going till 90. But speak a little bit about the partners that are involved. You got great partners, Publix, Orlando Health. There's so many campaigns around wellness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk about not only wellness but also some employment opportunities that some of these organizations offer
Yeah,
to these
I mean,
athletes?
we're just blessed to have some incredible partners that are partners in every sense of the word. They're not only helping us with funding, but they're really engaging in their areas of expertise to help benefit our athletes. So it truly we approach those relationships as true partnerships. And Publix is a great example. Publix does a campaign for us every year in January where they ask customers to donate at the register. They also have bowl-a-thons with their employees throughout the summer that help raise funds for Special Olympics Florida, which is obviously, when you're a nonprofit, incredibly impactful and cannot be understated. But their partnership goes beyond that, and that they employ hundreds of Special Olympics Florida athletes. So they are committed to giving people with intellectual disabilities the training that they need to be able to work at Publix and be a Publix associate. And we've seen it change our athletes' lives. Like, that's giving the athlete an income, often a level of independence they wouldn't have without that income, purpose. And they tell us they're some of their best employees because they're always on time. They're always in uniform, because all of the things that we teach them through sport, they're carrying into their work life, and, just really standout employees. So Publix is a great partner. And Orlando Health is sponsor a lot of our health programming, which I'll mention, but they also have a program called We Build, which is a program where our athletes and other people with intellectual disabilities get to have an internship with a mentor at one of their facilities, and then the goal is full-time employment after that. And we've seen each of our athletes that have gone through the We Build program now have full-time employment at
With Orlando Health. Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're just a great partner. And I think what people know about Special Olympics, because there's obviously a lot of brand recognition there, is the sports side of what we do. But there's an entire component of what we're doing that is just as critically important, that is healthcare. We provide free health screenings to our athletes at competitions and in the community. So we become a place where we can offer screenings that athletes may not otherwise get. So an example of that is every May and November, we have our 2 largest state events at ESPN Wide World of Sports. And at that event, an athlete might have a soccer game at 8 a.m. and then have a break before their next game. They can come into one of the facilities there, and it's completely outfitted essentially as a health clinic. And they can see an optometrist, a dentist, a physical therapist, a podiatrist. There's actually 7 different disciplines where they can see that doctor and get the care that they might need. So if they need glasses, we can make glasses for them on site.
Well, it's cool because I was out at your Claremont offices a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And there was an athlete there with their mom fulfilling order, for glasses that had been, put together for athletes, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was certainly, being able to put that practice into play, which is really cool. And they're right there at the facility.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So all those athletes get free prescription glasses. They get prescription sports goggles. If they need hearing aids, we can get them vouchers to get hearing aids. So that's obviously critical healthcare that's needed. And Special Olympics is actually the largest healthcare provider for people with intellectual disabilities in the world, which is kind of incredible because it's a sports organization, but providing that need. And, we catch, the basic is an athlete can see better because they have prescription sports goggles, so they're going to be more, accurate on their foul shot. But the deeper part of that is like life-saving care.
And I know you're going to talk about an example, but one of the examples that you gave as far as vision with the athletes is some of them, they were doing the vision test and they couldn't really read the letters. Like we know that when we go to a vision test, it's the big letters and the small letters until you can't see anymore. This is now you're blind.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you had the athletes that really, they couldn't read. So I think it was Special Olympics that came up with the idea to put symbols.
Yep. Yeah.
To me, for when you told me that at the Summer Games, it was amazing. So
Yeah.
now they can identify the symbols until they can't,
Mm-hmm.
but it helped them to understand that they're not blind.
Right.
They just
Right.
need glasses,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
that
no,
came through Special Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the origin of that, but that's a big part of what we're doing with healthcare. You imagine an athlete goes to just a general optometrist who maybe isn't making the connection that they can see those letters, but they they don't have the letter recognition.
Right.
So, replace it with symbols and you can get a true idea of what their vision is like. And that's part of what we're doing through that. So the purpose of the healthcare programs immediately is to serve the athletes and give them the health care that they need. And all of this, our sports programming, our health programming, is at no cost to the athlete or their family. So for a family, there's no navigating the insurance system. You don't have to worry about transportation to the doctor. Literally, an athlete can see 7 different doctors in one day, and the family doesn't have to pay, doesn't have to get them there, doesn't have to fill out. There's obviously some initial consent forms, but not the insurance paperwork that might be involved in mainstream medicine. But the other part of that is that we're educating health professionals on how to treat people with intellectual disabilities. So through our work with healthcare professionals, and our health team is just incredible with this. We're recruiting medical students, doctors, physicians to come and be a part of this, and they're learning how to treat our population, and then in turn going back and opening up their practices as inclusive practices. And we have a referral list now of doctors all over the state of Florida who are welcoming and experienced in treating our population. Because our doctors will tell you there's maybe one part of one class in med school that's focused on treating this population.
Mm-hmm.
And you need more than that. I mean, a lot of our athletes will tell you, before they see a doctor that's been trained through the Special Olympics Healthy Athletes program, when they go to the doctor talks to their caregiver or their parent. How are they feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And the athlete's right there, perfectly capable of saying, this is what my pain level is. This is how I'm feeling. But the doctor just doesn't have that experience. So through our health programming, we're helping doctors get that experience, giving med students that experience.
Which that education has to be a big part of the whole equation, right?
Yes. Yeah, they have to go through some training before we have them, serving in a leadership role with our athletes. And these doctors are incredible. I mean, they're often closing their private practices on a Friday to come volunteer their time to serve our athletes.
Isn't there a doctor, correct me if I'm wrong, but that comes from South Florida? That comes.
Yeah, they come from all over.
I met this gentleman, I think, at the November event.
Yeah, Dave Cato.
Dave Cato.
Yeah, he's a board member for us as well. He's with Cleveland Clinic.
Cleveland Clinic. Mm-hmm. He's at a lot of the events, right? And just gives his time.
Yep, all volunteer.
All volunteer.
Yeah. So it's just
Crazy.
amazing that we're able to, through that support of the doctors, give athletes critical health care that they may otherwise not get. For some of these athletes, it's the only time they see a doctor in a year is through this programming.
Well, it's amazing. And just talk a little bit about the growth. I mean, obviously your CEO is Sherry Wheelock, and I think she joined 2011. Talk about the numbers when she joined, and kind of where they stand now, and kind of what future growth is looking like for Special Olympics Florida.
Yeah. Sherry's been at the lead, been the CEO now for I guess 13 years, and the growth we've experienced under her leadership is truly incredible. I don't know the exact numbers, but when she first she was a board member previously, and she was at Universal, and then the CEO retired, and they were looking for a new CEO, and the board kind of looked at her and said, "Why don't you do it?" And she obviously stepped into that role. And I think somewhere around 13,000 athletes at that time, 13 years ago. And now we're up over 77,000 athletes that we're serving.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's just growth that is unprecedented.
Wow.
We're the largest state program by a significant amount. And it's really from her leadership of not ever being okay with we don't turn an athlete away. We have a place for every single person that comes to our door.
And with those 77,000 athletes, it's statewide. So how many events are you guys putting together and producing annually?
Yeah, we have over 200 sports events a year. So with those 77,000 athletes, they compete locally, regionally, and then at the state level. We have about 10 or 11 state championships every year with multiple sports.
So you depend on volunteers.
Absolutely.
You got a mighty team. I know that, but you're lean, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And so you depend on volunteers. How can people get involved with Special Olympics? Of course, they can, if you want, money's always good, right? If you want to write a check to Special Olympics Florida, but from a volunteer coaching perspective, I know that, there's some things you're working on with maybe like the YMCA's, like a unified sporting league or things like that.
Yeah.
Can you touch on some of those about how people can get involved and where they need to go to be involved with
Yeah,
Special
for
Olympics?
sure. Yeah, so we're supported by over 45,000 volunteers that are from a volunteer who comes at one competition and helps with scoring or helps hand out lunches, all the way to, a volunteer who's serving as an athlete mentor for our athlete leadership program. So there's an opportunity for everyone, no matter what their time availability is, their experience. We have a place that people can volunteer. And we need all kinds of volunteers. And we need people with all different kinds of skill sets. Obviously, we need people with a healthcare background. We need people with a sports background to be coaches, event organization. I mean, whatever someone's skill set is, there's a place for them to come and volunteer with us. And all that information would be at our website, specialolympicsflorida.org.
Okay.
And there's a Get Involved tab that tells you about becoming a coach, becoming a volunteer, and really lays out the details of all of our programming. And there's the ability to donate there. And then also throughout the year, we have many fundraisers, and we try to keep them fun and exciting. This past weekend, you were out there with us at the Orlando Polar Plunge. So people...
And Megan participated. She
did.
jumped right in there at Aquatica.
Yeah.
It wasn't the lakes up in Michigan, but it was still cold,
Yeah,
right? I mean, they turned the heaters off at
Florida.
Aquatica, and it was nice to see you participate and jump in.
Yeah,
you were out quick, I think, right?
Yeah, as fast as I got in, I got out.
Yeah, that's exactly. But you did it.
Yeah.
You did it, which is cool.
Yeah, and that fundraiser is like what we call a peer-to-peer event. So we have sponsors that support it, corporate sponsors, but the idea is that people create a fundraising page and they get their friends and family and their networks to donate to support them, and then they come out to Aquatica and they plunge into the wave pool there where they've turned the heater off for about a week to get the temperature down as low as possible. So we have the polar plunge, and we have a 5K series later in the year called Race for Inclusion. So there's lots of ways for people to get involved, both from a corporate partner level, but also just an individual who wants to help raise funds for Special Olympics Florida.
Can you talk about that Race for Inclusion? Because I know it's a newer event that you're trying to grow. It's in 5 cities, I think, right?
Yeah.
5 cities. And is the first one is Jacksonville? Is that correct?
That is, that would be the first one in September.
September.
We'll have the Race for Inclusion
in
Jacksonville.
I know we're a ways away from that, but as Special Olympics Florida tries to grow that, what is that about?
Yeah.
And talk about the inclusion that you're speaking of with these athletes and the community base that you're wanting to bring for those events.
Yeah, so inclusion is obviously a big part of our mission.
Yeah.
And we are trying to use sport to give our athletes the same opportunities that anybody else would have in society. And that's sort of how we look at inclusion. So the Race for Inclusion series is a series of, it's mostly 5Ks. We do have a Golf for Inclusion in Palm Beach County, but it's another peer-to-peer event where people can run our 5K, walk our 5K, create a fundraising page, and raise funds for Special Olympics Florida. But the idea is that we really want to bring awareness to Special Olympics Florida in general and the message of inclusion that we're telling.
Okay.
Because I know that a lot of people are talking about inclusion right now, but it's about what inclusion means to us at Special Olympics Florida. And, it's just a really fun event that what I like about it is people can bring their families, because you can walk a 5K, children are invited to be there. We see a lot of families come out together. So the idea of that is it's a fundraiser first and foremost, but also it's an awareness piece that we can go to 5 or 6 different cities across the state and kind of show them what Special Olympics Florida is.
Well, and it builds community within those cities as well, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's so cool. And, I think the goal, when do you think we can see 100,000 athletes participating in? I mean, you guys have had such an amazing growth, and it's gone quickly. 77,000. I think 100K should be.
Yeah. I mean, we're scratching the surface of, like the number of people in Florida that have an intellectual disability. We're not, our penetration level of that is not that high, but we're growing really, really fast. So that'll definitely be a milestone when we hit 100,000 athletes. And I think that there's a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, great brand recognition, but we still want to make sure that everybody knows what we're doing, because it's interesting. Everybody knows somebody that could be a part of our program. We just want to make sure that anybody who would want to be involved knows that we're here, knows that there's no cost to the athlete, to their family, to be involved, and we're a place where they can stay for life and be included and develop their skills.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for being a part of the David Lindsey podcast today. I mean, what you guys do and what Special Olympics does, Special Olympics Florida, is certainly important to the communities and important to these athletes and important to the families. And are there any events coming up in the next month or so that you want to kind of give a plug to that
Yeah.
people can get involved right away?
Yeah, for sure.
Before
So
we wrap up
we
today?
talked about the polar plunge that we just
Yeah.
had this past weekend in Orlando. We have another one at Adventure Island in Tampa on March 15th. So the polar plunge Tampa. In April, we have a fundraising event at Raymond James Stadium called the Sunshine Bowl. So it's a flag football tournament that takes place inside Raymond James Stadium.
Okay, cool.
But there's also sort of a food and wine aspect to it the night before on April 11th. It's called Savor the Bay. So those are a couple of the upcoming fundraising events. And then with 200 competitions, there's something happening every weekend across the state. But our big event in May is our state summer games, which takes place at ESPN Wide Sports. I think it's the second or third weekend in May. And that's 7 different sports, thousands of athletes, competing at Wide Sports, where NBA players, NFL players, MLB, I mean, every major pro league has done something at ESPN Wide Sports. So it's really cool for our athletes to share that stage.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining me today, Megan.
Yeah.
And thank you all for tuning in to the David Lindsey podcast today. And we'll see you on the next one in a couple weeks. Thank you.